All right. My story starts in Gibsons. I'm slumped against this log, and I'm waiting for the ferry to take me back to Vancouver, where I will see my team for the first time in 2 years. I have not slept a wink. I left my company 2 years before that, and I am very unclear as to why I left. All I know is that I felt this invisible push, like hands against my back, and this whisper of, "It's time to go. You must leave." So I left my company, I left the business world, I left Vancouver, I left it all. And I moved onto a sailboat, which I still live on. At this point, I was in my late 40s, and this was all new for me. I had no idea what I was doing. Up until that point, it had always been my mantra that it was all up to me, all up to me. Whatever I'm going to do, it's all up to me. It had served me up until that point, until it just didn't. So here I am on the sailboat, convinced that my team is thinking I've completely abandoned them. And I end up reading and reading and reading every spiritual memoir I can get my hands on. I read and I read and I read. And all the books, doesn't matter what spiritual tradition I'm reading, all the books say the same thing. Trust, surrender, it's all going to be okay. So a tiny, tiny, tiny seed may have been planted. But for now, slumped against this log in Gibsons, waiting for this ferry, I am terrified. And I remember reaching down and picking up this rock. I slept with this rock in my hand for a year after that. I needed to feel the smoothness in my hand. Around about this time that I'm doing all this reading and attempting to learn how to sail, still not proficient by any stretch of the imagination, I see this movie, and there's a scene in the movie about a train accident. And it's a mother and daughter, and the mother has been killed in this train accident. And in the scene in the movie, this daughter has plastered her bedroom wall with Post-it notes, trying to figure out what the cause and effect was that led up to this accident. If I'd said this, if I'd done this, if I'd sat here, would something have been different? Would my mother still be alive? And her uncle walks into the room, sees all these Post-it notes, and says to her, "There is no amount of Post-it notes in this world that can explain why what happened happened." And that movie just hit me like a ton of bricks, because I knew he was right. It was a million different permutations and combinations of various decisions made over centuries that had led to that accident. It had nothing to do with anything the girl did. She was not the master of her fate, and neither was I. And I began to suspect that what was ever happening to me was not up to me. So fast forward another year or so, still on this damn sailboat, and during the winter, I went down to Mexico City with my partner, and I'm kind of like a ghost, just wandering the streets of Mexico City. And in some semblance of trying to create normalcy in my life, I would make a to-do list every day. And that particular day, I wrote down, buy tortillas, study my irregular Spanish verbs, and then my pen wrote, walk the Camino. And I kind of went, wait, what? Like I'd seen a documentary on the Camino 10 years previous, maybe, and all of a sudden my pen's writing this. But in that moment that my pen hit the paper and I wrote it, I came alive. Just like that push out of Vancouver, all of a sudden I felt this pull, like a physical pull. And for those of you that don't know, the Camino is a 1,000-year-old pilgrimage. It's been walked by millions and millions of pilgrims throughout time. You'll hear more about it later tonight. But suddenly there I was, researching the hell out of the Camino and packing and training, and I found myself getting my kitchen scales out, my tiny little kitchen scales on the boat, and weighing my underwear and cutting the tabs out of my underwear, trying to get my weight down. Although it's just ridiculous, but I was so excited. I finally had something that was pulling me in some sort of direction. And then suddenly, there I am in Spain. I'm walking. I've got a 20-pound pack on my back, and I'm with all of these people just like me. All these people that are in some sort of transition mode. Somebody's just gotten a divorce, somebody's changing careers, somebody's daughter has died, just all these stories. And all we have to do together is walk from A to B. That's all we have to do, walk from A to B. And how we get there is we look for the next yellow arrow. And on the Camino, the way that you figure out where you're going is you're just looking for the next yellow arrow. You're not looking for the one that is 5 kilometers down the road. You're not looking for the one that's going to be 350 meters that way. You're looking for the one that's directly next. That's it. That's all you do. So we're walking from A to B, looking for our yellow arrows, and all of a sudden, all this guilt and pain and depression that I'd felt around not having any clue what I was supposed to be doing with my life suddenly turns into this joy and peace and laughter and gratitude and tears every day and these beautiful people that I'm talking with where it's absolutely verboten to talk about what you do for a living. And I saw as I walked each day that I could trust this path. All I had to do was look for the next yellow arrow. I could live my life this way. On day 26, I came to what's called the Iron Cross, the Cruz de Ferro. That's my fabulous Spanish accent from all my Spanish lessons. And the tradition on when you get to the Cruz de Ferro is you leave a rock behind. So you bring a rock from home, and it's there to symbolize something you're ready to leave behind. And I was ready to leave this whole idea of it's all up to me. I'm the master of my fate, which brought me nothing but stress. And I walk up to the pile of rocks, and this is, thousands and thousands and thousands of people over thousands of years dumping their rocks on this pile. And I go to, sort of toss my rock on the pile, and it wouldn't leave my hand. And I can feel it heating up. I can feel it heating up in my hand. And I'm thinking, okay, this is strange. I'm ready to leave this behind. I want to throw this rock. It wouldn't leave my hand. And so I said to the rock, what do you want? What am I supposed to do? And the rock very clearly said to me, you do not approach this moment standing up. This is holy ground. And if you look in the picture, you can see me there on my knees. The first time I'd ever been in that posture, it was the only way to approach this moment. And I knew I had to thank it. I had to thank this rock and all that it symbolized, all this all up to me-ness that had gotten me as far as it had. But now I was ready to cross this threshold of what Richard Rohr calls the first half of life into the second half of life. I took the rock and I cast it, because that was the only word for that moment. I cast it. And I cast my rock onto the cast my stone onto the pile of stones, because the rock became a stone in that moment too. And I cast my stone, and that was me casting my vote for a new way of being in the world, where I just look for the next yellow arrow, and no more than that. It felt like faith. It is faith. Thank you.